Hello and welcome to part 5 of our Mandala series. You can download the Grasshopper file below so you're up to date on the newest file. There were some changes made in the file, so it's best if you take the newest file so we are on the same track. So today we basically want to iterate on those lines that we have created in the past, and we want to create this little bulge. And not only that, but we want to make it so it's kind of recursive. As in it would look like that. So we can have different things that can take the same script over and over again. And obviously, if we create and if we change the previous parameters, we still have a very smooth workflow here. Okay, good. Now let's get started, and let's start from scratch here. All right, so I want to first sketch out basically what we want to do, right? And just as a notice, before here, I added this curve closest point and then sort list command. So the list and the lines are in the exact order because the populate geometry made the points randomly distributed on the curve, but I want to have it along the curve. I just show you with sort point, no, with list point. You can basically see here that those points might be in an order which might be a bit weird. You see it's kind of all over the place, but if we have it sorted with the parameter as the values, as the keys, they are more sorted on the curve. So just so you know, we added that little thing here. Because when we have our lines that are along the curve, we basically want to create a little bulge like that goes along them, right? Like almost like a flower in that sense. And the way I wanted to have it, so for example, when you have 2 points, the bulge is small, but when you have 2 points which are further away, the bulge is bigger in that sense. So there are a few commands, a few things that we can use here to make our life a little bit easier. So first of all, we're going to use endpoints as our, and we're going to use the endpoints in specifically here, no, starting points. That's going to be the starting points of a little bulge here. Now, there is another command. If we go under curve, and then we will take under spline, we are taking the tangent curve command. This can basically has the ability to create the curve for us in our case. Now what do we need? Well, we need 2 vertices and we need 2 tangents. Now what does it mean? Basically, when we have our points here and there, we first create a vector that goes here, but we also need a vector that goes there basically, but we need this vector 2 times. So we're gonna duplicate that. Now, how do we do that? So first of all, we're gonna use the shift list command, and then we have 2. Basically, we're gonna create the vector between those 2 points. So we're gonna use vector 2 point and use the start point in the beginning, and then also the shifted list. Make sure the wrap is enabled. So because we're gonna have the last point enabled as well. Now this creates us some vertices in our case. Now what we also need is that we want to, well, we need to have this twice, but we also need to have the points twice, right? So we need to create first just a merge, and then we would create the points we have in the beginning, and then also the ones we are shifting 1 over. And then we also need to simplify because as you see, there's kind of like some weird list stuff going on. We want the list to be equally. So it should look kind of like that. And actually, I'm not completely satisfied with that. I think we might need to do a bit more here. And maybe flatten that. Well, let's see. Let's flatten the tree to 0. Hope that makes it better in that sense. Maybe over there as well. Okay, and then we also need to graft those two. So we have basically now the number of 80 different paths with each two numbers. So we have 160 amounts total. I think we can actually also remove the simplify list here, right? Yeah, this would still work. I think yeah, I think it's important that you have the manual flattened curve here, so we are on the same path, the path 0. It's important so you are not having any issues with the grafting here at that point. So now that we have that, we also want to create the cross product of our created vector here, and we're going to use the z vector as the cross product kind of reference. And that basically means we have 80 vectors now. Now we need to duplicate those vectors, the amounts. We can actually just do the same here and just like create two lists which are like that. But and actually let's do that just for the show of it, like that. But I also want to show you an alternative method. We could use duplicate data and then use the data here. And then we are partitioning that list into the size of 2, which would then give the same result in that sense. Since that we have here, like now we basically have all those things like set up, and we just need to put the vertices, which are the points that we defined here, into the vertices thing, and the duplicated data here in the tangents. Now, as you see, there is one thing that is a little bit weird happening here. Yeah, it is that because the tangent curve wants to have, because we're making a bulge and not kind of like a line, we need to basically flip one of those vectors. So one way to do that is actually do the, there is a command under vector that like vector, which actually reverses the vector direction. So we're going to use that and actually use the original merge data as a bit more of an easier run through, like that. And then we're going to delete this as a consequence and use this as a tangent. Now we have that now, and that's great, right? That's the idea of how we wanted to have it. Now, how can we make it so it goes more often like this, right? So as you see here, we have the line curve and we have the points as the basic input. Now, what we basically need is just having a point as a basic input again. So what I'm going to do here is that we are going to, first of all, tidy this bit up and make this a bit more invisible. This visible, this invisible. With Control Q, you can make those things visible and invisible. And we're going to use the curve command as our new, and we're going to use curve middle and the curve as the input for that middle. And now again, we see we have points. And the cool thing is now is that we can basically just, well, first of all, I want to have the output as well. So we're going to see that, but we're going to just copy that and then middle mouse click and cluster it. You can also, no, that's the way how you could do it. And this basically creates a cluster of our thing that we have there. Now, there are some plugins in Grasshopper that can make basically the recursive thing itself. But for example, if we would take those middle points here and go in here, it would say like recursive data stream found that component depends on itself. This doesn't work in Grasshopper. Now there are some add-ons which can go around that, some plugins, but we just want to create this basically by ourselves, right? So we're just gonna actually, I want to put the another output here. I just went inside this cluster and use curve output and then the curve midpoint output. So we have two outputs there in total. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't break. Good. Now, since we have that defined now, let me check the cluster again. Let me delete those. I think there was a little error. We're just gonna create those outputs again, so we have it clear and nice. Like this for the view and this for the midpoint. Now that we have that, we can just copy and paste that a few times like that. And we're gonna use the midpoint in the tree, and 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 the midpoint in the tree. And if you want to have it even more, you can obviously just copy paste that. Control C, Control V, and create the same thing again as many times as you want. Now, you can actually make this a bit nicer so it does not, just put the curve inputs here. There might be some better ways how to manage that correctly, because at the moment I don't really like the point display here. Obviously you can always hide the display, but I think just to have like a central database, you can, when you move this around and with shift click on your keyboard, you see this little button showing up, the little green thing you see, that basically enables us to put multiple inputs into our curve here. And then we can basically put that, middle mouse click and disable preview, and we have our preview of a little bulge here. Right, good. And then obviously if you go to the previous things, we can kind of adjust it to a liking, so it looks like a very nice look. It reminds me a little bit of clouds or like an ice cream cone or some kind of popcorn here. You see how it kind of bulges out in and out. And yeah, so those are our little popcorn things here, our little bulges. Great. So the file now of the end will be in the description as well, so you can download that in case you got stuck up or something while doing that. And then we're gonna go to the next tutorial. And yeah, if you made it till here, thank you much for watching. And yeah, see you in the next one.